Let's double check, make sure we're live and good to go here. Let's see. Are we live? Are we good to go? Let's see. Man, oh man, oh man, oh man. So Dante Moore has decided to return to Oregon. Okay, cool. We're live. Danger Zone, what's going on, bro? Hope you're doing well. Just got home, right in just in the nick of time, right? Billy, what's up, dude? Hope you're doing well. Logan, Stewie, James, Alex, Doctor, Shredder. What's happening, man? Shot, what's going on, bro? Hope you're doing well. Todd, what's happening, man? So K1 and Cardinal Tate. All right, bro, we're gonna get into it. All right, we're gonna get into it here. So Dante Moore decided to, well, first off, right? Thanks so much for hopping in. Let me flip off the Wi-Fi here. Let me flip this off as well. So hopefully it doesn't get all super laggy here. But Dante Moore has just returned to, or announced that he's returned to school. Let's actually pull up the exact tweet here from Rich Cimini. So, on one hand, look, Dante Moore is, look, he's a pretty good quarterback prospect. I think we could all admit to that, right? Let's see. Okay, cool. Yeah, so you guys should be able to see this right now. James, what's happening, man? Hope you're doing well. So yeah, Dante Moore, I think everybody can attest. Okay, you know what? Talented kid, 20 years old, arm strength, throwing mechanics, accuracy, won a lot, showed a lot this season, right? I mean, you look at what Dante Moore can actually do from under center, right? Dropping back from the pocket, being able to climb the pocket, throwing on time. Like there's so deep ball accuracy, seam balls. Like there's so much that Dante Moore can do, right? But the big knock on Dante was he's 20, right? He is raw. He has a high ceiling, yes, but he needs more time to develop. So on the surface, even though I got to be honest, even though if Dante Moore was on the board, if he decided to declare, I think I would have taken him at 2. On the surface, you can make this argument. Why would a team in the New York Jets, or why should a team in the New York Jets, like if you're in Dante Moore's camp, you're looking at the squad saying, okay, defensive-minded question mark for a head coach right now in Aaron Glenn. Is he going to be in a position where he just throws Dante Moore out there, Sam Darnold style, Zach Wilson style, to save his job? Again, questionable coaching staff to begin with. Can these guys build a system around a guy in Dante Moore, again, a 20-year-old quarterback who would be 21 by the time the season rolls around? We're pretty much, I'm going to say, eliminating that argument. I will say, feels pretty safe to say that Fernando Mendoza will not be on the board at spot number 2. But look, if Dante were to come out, that I think would be the fear of a lot of Jets fans, right? Where it's, okay, great, high upside, lots of talent, young guy, projects well, but we've seen this before. And we've seen the Jets ruin quarterbacks like this, not putting them in a position to have success, not giving them a veteran to learn off of, not providing them weapons, not designing a system around what these quarterbacks are good at, right? What their strengths are. We've seen it over and over. So again, there is that kind of fear, like, okay, is this going to work? But now, look, I know it might sound a little bit crazy here. I completely get that this might sound nuts, but I truly believe this. This could be a blessing in disguise. This isn't me coping. I promise this is not me coping. This could actually be a blessing in disguise. Why? Because the New York Jets have a lot of team needs. We have a major talent issue. We have a major depth issue. In other words, we need a lot of good players, and we need a lot of players to back up those good players. Okay, so what this does, right, and by the way, for now, like draft season's a long, it's gonna, the NFL draft is late April, right? We have months. So we, to sit here and act like we know all the answers and know exactly how the board's going to play out and know who's going to rise and who's going to fall. We don't have those answers, right? We do not have those answers. But what I will say is the debate amongst, maybe the internal discussions right now with the New York Jets, the Rick Spielmans, the Darren Mugis, the Woody Johnsons, the Aaron Glenn, the Tanner Ingstrands of the world. If you can now say, you know what, there's not a quarterback worth taking it to, we're going to go BPA. Fine. That's honestly fine with me. Again, we need more players, we need more talent, we need more depth. If we can go out and essentially, like, literally go BPA at 2, BPA at 16, BPA at 33, BPA at 44, you are adding 4 starters immediately. Immediately. Like, think about Armand Membu, right? Just the impact that Armand Membu had this season. Imagine adding 2 more of them with these first rounders, like that type of impact. 2 more starters just in the draft alone. And then, of course, you're factoring in the second round. And I mean, pick 33, that's essentially a first rounder coming in at a cheaper price, right? Granted, no fifth year option. There's some give or take there, right? Some pros and cons, but 33 is a freaking valuable pick. And it's also a very tradable draft pick as well. So if you want to maybe field calls all day and you have a team trade up and we can shoot back, a couple more spots and maybe even pick up future assets, I seriously do not think that this is some sort of, sky is falling, catastrophic nightmare situation. Look, if we were to ask all 30, I guess the other 31 general managers in football right now, hey, quarterback aside for a second, is it a good idea for a bad 3-win team with a lot of holes, a lot of talent and depth deficiencies to go BPA? Is that a good idea? I think the majority, I would argue all, but the majority would probably say, yeah, it's a good idea. I find it very hard to believe an actual talent evaluator, an actual general manager would say, whoa, 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 best player available for a 3-win team with a lot of issues. You got to reach. You have to reach on a player. No, you have to go strictly for team need. I guess, the counter to that is the New York Jets need a lot of players. So it's kind of the blessing here, or the silver lining, if you will, right? The Jets can go in a myriad of different directions. Again, at 2, at 16, 33, 44. I mean, off the top of my head, I could probably name 10 team needs. Defensive tackles, edge rushers, at least one starting safety and one backup safety. I don't envision Tony Adams being back. I don't envision Andre Cisco being back. So at the very least, two more safeties, one starter, one depth guy. And that's if you love Malachi Moore. If you don't love Malachi Moore, okay, well, now we're probably talking about 3 safeties, right? I think we can use a corner, whether that's a top end corner or a depth corner. We definitely need help at wide receiver. I would say 2, but if you want to take one big swing at one, I'm fine with that. We have to figure out the whole Breece Hall situation. We have to bring in a veteran quarterback. We have to figure out what's happening at left guard. Is it going to be AVT? Is it going to be John Simpson? Is it going to be somebody else? There's a lot of I've talked to Kevin, Buffalo Jet fan, and he suggested he's not done adding to the tight end room. If there's someone out there that makes sense, and the Jets want to maybe add more bulk and more power over the middle of the field, could we be in the market to add another tight end, despite the Ruckert signing? Now here's again, I can't stress it enough. The New York Jets have such a luxury here because of the amount of assets that we hold, right? The amount of assets that we hold is humongous. We are not in a position where we're projecting into the future, right? We're talking about free agents, we're talking about draft picks, and it's like, well, we have $16 million in cap space and one pick in the top 50. Yeah, good luck trying to rebuild with that. There are teams that are literally in that situation. Like, the Falcons don't even have a first round pick, and I think they have what, $6 million in caps. Like, there are teams that are not in good positions. Miami Dolphins, they got to figure out the $99 million that's owed to Tua. The New York, if you're talking about ways to rebuild a football team, you have really 4 main avenues. 1, the draft, the gold standard, the NFL draft, where we have extra picks, 5 ones over the next 2 years, 3 twos over the next 2 years. Absolutely massive. Absolutely massive. Free agency. Jets are top 5 in cap space for this season. The Jet the Jets will be top 5 cap space, assuming we don't do a full out, like, blowout, spend every cent we have. The Jets right now are projected to be a top 5 team in cap space in 2027. Again, another huge benefit there, right? We also have over $50 million in dead money coming off the books in 2027. Another major benefit. The Jets can go out and literally hand out $50 million in contracts this season. I'm not talking total, I'm talking annual here, which is a ton. And once next season rolls around, it's like boom, 50 million is gone because the dead cap is gone from Rodgers and Fields. Again, over $50 million there. So it's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. The Jets are set up beautifully with draft picks and they're set up beautifully with cap space. We can also talk about trades. Well, how does one maneuver and figure out a trade? Well, you got to find a good system fit where you have to obviously identify the player, identify the talent. And so far, so good with Darren Muji on that front, adding Jawan Briggs, Harrison Phillips, and Jarvis Brown-Lee. Absolutely awesome stuff from Muji's part. So he's shown the ability to, hey, I can look across the league, handpick players and drop them into the team and they start having instant success. But again, you need cap space, you need flexibility to make these trades happen. You need, I would argue, an abundance of draft picks to again make these trades happen. And the Jets have both. So we've really checked all three boxes: draft picks, free agency, cap space, right? Dollars that we can spend here, and also putting ourselves in a position to go out and acquire, I would say, whether it's a big name player or a smaller name player, whatever, if the New York Jets organization feels like there are upgrades to be had in the market, we now have the ability to do that, right? We have that flexibility. And then of course the last major period or step to acquire talent is the waiver claim pickup. Yes, of course, right? We can always project like, okay, a practice squad player, maybe he turns into something cool, but you can really find some talent off the waiver wire. The only thing with that, right, the reason why it's like a tier beneath the others is you don't have complete control of that. You don't have complete, you don't have an understanding of who's going to be released and whatnot from other teams. So, um, I think ultimately, look, for a 3-win New York Jets team, is it maybe a gut punch that Dante Moore is going back to school? I would argue to some, but I guarantee you, and I'm seeing some of the comments here. Holy dude, Valid. What are you doing, bro? Absolutely nuts. Absolutely insane. Valen, you were the freaking man. I gotta scroll. I gotta see if maybe you added a question here or a comment. I'm really curious to get your thoughts on on this decision here. But dude, I'm at a loss for words every time you send in these super chats. It's just extremely, extremely generous, bro. I appreciate you, man. Seriously, you have no idea how much it means to me. Um, danger, danger zone. I appreciate you, bro. Jet Central Live hits different. Yeah, man. I figured this was breaking news. I got to hop on. I got home just in time for it. I appreciate the $5, bro. Again, it really means a lot. But again, right when we're looking at Dante Moore and his decision to go back, it is what it is. There's nothing that we can do about it now outside of move forward and figure out a path. What's the best path to success? Right. I think the good news here is when people are talking about, okay, finding the quarterback of the future, and you're talking about 2027 names, there's names all over the place. All like I think I could literally sit here right now and talk about 8 to 9 quarterback prospects that could legit go in round one. All these different draft insiders are projecting 2027. And by the way, who knows? Maybe Dante Moore is just a Jet next year. Like, who knows? But I mean, you can talk about CJ Carr, Notre Dame. You could talk about Sam Levitt going to LSU. Like, if you like Jackson Dart, you're gonna love Sam Levitt. Like, he's like a souped up Jackson Dart. You got Josh Hoover going to Indiana. Indiana also landed Nick Marsh, one of the top wide receivers in the portal coming out of Michigan State. Someone who I feel like needs to be talked about a little bit more. I fully expect Josh Hoover to have a dominant year for the Hoosiers. You have Brandon Swordsby going to Texas Tech. So much potential, with his arm and his size and his playmaking ability. Also takes care of the football, which I really, really like. The argument with Swordsby this season was, hey, he was going to be a top of round 2 guy when the regular season ended. when the regular season ended. Okay, so yeah, if he goes back to school to a loaded Texas Tech team, I think he's setting himself up nicely for potential draft riser, when it comes to 2027. Not to mention, you have the underclassmen and Arch Manning and Julian Sayin. There's a lot of options. There is a lot of options out there. And then of course, right, we have to factor in kind of maybe the sleepers, right? What happens if DJ Lagway, puts out really good tape, right? Puts it all together and puts out great tape. That was someone that a lot of people had as like a future number one top five pick. So there's, I believe, going to be a ton of options in 2027. I'm really not too worried about it. I do believe that Darren Muji will find the young quarterback eventually. Um, and again, I can tell there's going to be some that are pissed, and I get it. I completely get it. Um, yeah, and Jay Lauren. Yeah, just one more kick to the balls. Going defense heavy again doesn't move me. Well, I think for me, honestly, the defense is so bad and we need so much help on defense. I really don't look at a position right now, unless you're talking offensive line, where it's just like, whoa, what are we doing here? And even if that's the case, I mean, you can say, okay, well, we're just going to put him at left guard and not bring, save money with not bringing one of the guards back. But that would probably be the one thing that I'm just flat out against. But if the Jets want to go with the Ruben Bain, if the Jets want to go with an Arvell Reese or whoever, right? Chances are they're going to come in and be a massive upgrade to the room. Um, no, I do want to kind of talk a little bit about Ty Simpson here, right? Also Trinidad Chambliss, two quarterback prospects that look well. In the case of Simpson, he's coming. It's, by all indications, Mendoza is probably going to be coming as well. I don't really see a situation where he goes back to school and hits the portal. Right, makes absolutely no sense. But of course, that's not official. But with Hoover going to Indiana, like 99.9% chance Mendoza's coming out. But again, has not signed the paperwork yet. But Chambliss wants to go back to school. Chambliss already has a deal lined up with Ole Miss, but the NCAA is denying it. Right. If you think back, second year at Ferris State was dealing with a respiratory issue and missed time. So again, Chambliss and his party, his side want that extra season. But it's been denied multiple times. Once back in December, once most recently. So if Chambliss is in this class, and look, I'm not saying, oh, take these guys at 2, but it's just intriguing quarterback options that Darren Muji has got to look into, right? Like, again, not saying that they need to be picked, whether that's at 2 or 33 or 4, wherever, 3. But it's definitely, these are definitely prospects that I'm personally going to their pro days. I'm personally going to be looking into. If I was their movie, I'm going to 100% rewatch all of the film from this season to make sure you're not leaving any stones unturned. So I personally don't want to rule out a Chambliss or a Ty Simpson at this point in time. But realistically speaking, and by the way, over 700 people in here just randomly on a Wednesday afternoon. Man, shout out to you guys coming off a 3-win season. Like, Jets fans are the best. Jets fans are the best. John, what's happening, bro? I say we draft Chambliss. Yeah. So once that news becomes official, I'll probably end up doing a video on that. Oh wait, hold on. We have. Okay, never mind. Breaking baseball news. It's Ranger Suarez is going to, I believe, the Red Sox on a huge deal. I think that's their first big free agency signing of the offseason. But yeah, Michael, dude, I feel you, bro. I feel you, but don't sweat it. It's not this. Look, unfortunately, right, for the Jets, there's this like dark cloud above the organization, and the coverage around this team is always negative. It's always point and laugh at the Jets. It's always pessimistic. But I promise you, bro, it's not as bad as it seems. It's not as bad as it's never a bad idea to have extra picks, tons of cap space, and to go best players on the board, right? Again, it stings that we don't have a long-term option at the quarterback position, and that assumes that Chambliss is not a fit, and that assumes that Ty Simpson's not a fit. Again, those guys could be really well liked. What happens with all, the other day 3 QBs? Like, or I should say the projected day 3 QBs. Nussmeier, Aller, um, Carson Beck, Cade Klubnik, right? There's gonna be some options, right, that this front office can, look into for sure. But I think, man, of course, adding good players to this team makes a lot of sense. And again, look, if Dante Moore would have came out, I would have drafted him at 2. I do believe in Dante Moore's skill set. But just because he's going back to school does not mean, well, pack it in. Next season's a wash because Dante Moore is going back. Not in the slightest. Here's the most realistic path. The Detroit parallels continue. Billy, okay, I can't tell you how relieved I am by this news. Okay, yeah, so that's a positive spin on it, man. That's a positive spin on it. Um, Draft John Mateer in a lower round. John, that's a really interesting option because I assumed that Mateer was going back to school, but there's a chance that he could actually come out. I'm personally personally not a big Mateer guy. I just for me, he's just too erratic. Like amazing play, and then follows it up with just a rookie mistake or an easy miss. And I just feel like that fluctuation is just a little too crazy, but the upside is there. The upside is there for sure. Okay, dude, what's up? What's happening, man? Bane and Reese season has started. Both guys make sense, but of course, we won't have that for sure answer on who's the better fit until we actually figure out who the defensive coordinator is, right? If it's say Wink Martindale or even Jones from Minnesota, I think Arvell is probably the better fit. But if we want to just maybe go with someone from the Lions tree or maybe Aaron Glenn wants to call plays, I think maybe Bane would be the better fit. Because I mean, we're gonna have tons of videos on it, man. I'm freaking fired up, right? Not, and again, I like Dante Moore, but this to me was just kind of like a win-win for the Jets. Whether Moore decided to come out or go back to school, I think in a perfect world, Moore coming out gives you more benefits, right? Because if you don't love Moore, you can trade back. You'd have teams like Cleveland and the Rams and Arizona at 3, potentially wanting to move up. Um, if you want to maybe evaluate Dante Moore and you evaluate Ty Simpson and they're really close and you're good either way, you can pass on Dante, go with BPA at 2, and then pick up your guy at 16 in Simpson, right? In this, theoretically speaking. But look, he's not, again, he's not in this draft. Oh, well, it is what it is. It doesn't change the Jets cap space. It doesn't change the Jets amount of draft picks. It doesn't really change much outside of the fact of, is there a quarterback worth taking at spot number 2? And you can definitely argue if Dante Moore was the pick at spot number 2, is Aaron Glenn and Tanner Engstrand the right coaching staff to develop him? Are the Jets set up in a position where he has the luxury of time to sit on the bench? Now, if I was running the team, I would have said, Dante Moore, you're a redshirt season. I don't even want to see you at all on the regular season field the entire season. I know it's not exciting to say that. I know it's not, the thing that like sells tickets and stuff like that. But for the betterment of the team, for the betterment of Dante Moore's growth, I believe that he should have sat for an entire season. And I would have made sure that he is not stepping foot on the field, whether that's signing 2 veteran quarterbacks or what have you. That would have been my plan of attack. But now we don't, that worry, right? Rushing Dante Moore out there. Is he ready to play? Is Glenn playing Dante Moore to save his job? At the end of the day, Dante Moore is 20 years old. You look at the track record of starts. How many quarterbacks work out in the NFL with Dante Moore's amount of starts? Very few. And quick side note, I see people say all the time, like, oh, well, Cam Newton only had the 1 year of starting experience. What was it, 14 games or whatever back at Auburn? Even the successes that people point out, they're still a little skewed because they're not even taking into consideration maybe snaps or games played at the FCS level, right? And of course, there's a jump between FCS and SEC Auburn football, right? Obviously, but it's still reps nonetheless. So if you want to have that pessimistic mindset, and Dante Moore declared, you could have easily made the argument, this is the Jets here. They're going to rush him out early because they're not a patient franchise. They're not going to put him in a position to have success. One of the major questions this season around Justin Fields was, hey, is the coaching staff even playing to his skill set? How many times do we see Justin Fields roll outside of the pocket? Very, very, very few. And it's unfortunate because it's like that's Justin Fields' like number one trait: legs, mobility, get him outside the pocket. And the Jets weren't doing that. And so again, I mean, I've texted with a couple buddies. I'm trying to Tyson from Let's Talk Jets Radio is texting me now. I'm trying to see what he said, but you can easily make the argument, hey, if Dante was in this class, the Jets would have mishandled the situation, right? You could have made that argument, and I wouldn't have not pushed back. Now, I would have liked to think that they would have handled the situation better, but that's it's an unknown, and we're not going to have that answer. And again, in the minds of some, that's like Billy mentioned before, it's relieving. BP Jets, what's up, man? Do they go BPA or trade back late to the party? Dude, I appreciate the $2, man. Thank you so much. I say BPA because the thing is with the trade back, who are you trading back or what team is trading up and who for? If it's not for Dante Moore, is someone going to come up with, for an offensive lineman? No, there's not one worth taking it to. What about wide receiver? No, not worth taking it to. Unless you're absolutely sold on a defensive player. But even then, it's like because look, Travis Hunter went last season in a trade up from 5 to 2, so anything is possible. I don't want to sit here mid-January and pretend like I have all the answers. I don't. No one does. It could happen, but at this point in time, I think you just stick and pick and go best play. And also, too, for what it's worth, yes, Fernando Mendoza is QB1 in this class, but he might not be the best overall player. So the New York Jets could, again, in theory, draft the best player in the draft at 2. Is that, and again, it's disappointing that we aren't going with the high upside QB at 2 in Dante Moore, but is it really that bad of an like if we ask like if we look at the Cardinals right now, let's just pretend the Cardinals had the second overall pick and this was them. Okay, this was them. Are we looking at them saying, "Oh man, everything is ruined. The sky's falling. This sucks for Arizona." It's like, they could have liked Dante Moore. That would have been a sweet fit, but they're probably just going to go BPA now. I would have much rather have been in this position where it's BPA at 2 and 16 compared to where it was, say, when we were getting blown out in December. Like that right after that Falcons win, like that Dolphins loss where the Jets were at like 7 and 24 or 25 with the Colts pick. I mean, the Colts went on like this crazy slide, this crazy losses all over the place. I mean, to be at 2 and 16 and have the luxury of just going whoever you want because you have so many needs is awesome. So, I'm looking at the team. I keeps slipping my mind. I want to focus in on like a realistic maybe pathway moving forward for this upcoming season, right? Like what can we do on the field and free agency and the draft? I'm going to do a whole separate video on this. So quick spoiler for everyone hanging out. And let's see, Charlie, bro, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much, dude. Definitely did not have to do that. Ossis, what's happening, man? Caleb Downs is also an option at number 2. Caleb Downs is what's really cool about Caleb Downs is he's a fantastic leader, amazing teammate, amazing player, a versatile player, right? Can play in the box or play in the deep parts of the field. And he's also labeled as a culture changer too. Like if you like, that's why everybody is linking Caleb Downs to the Bengals because they're like, they need a culture, they need a great player, sure, but they also need a culture changer. And Caleb Downs is that player. I think for me, though, my pushback with Downs, 2 main issues. Number 1, and by no means am I hating on the safety position. Safety is my favorite position on the football field. I love it. I love safety, but the fact of the matter is you never see safeties go that high. I mean, the 2 best safeties that I've ever watched in college were not even top 10 picks in Kyle Hamilton and Derwin James. Both guys were picked outside of the top 10. And when I look at Caleb Downs, I don't see him as a player that's way better than Derwin or way better than Kyle Hamilton, of course, as prospects coming out of school. I have them all in the same tier. But I'm not going to sit here and say Caleb Downs is twice the player that Derwin James was back at Florida State, or Kyle Hamilton. Caleb Downs is 3 times better than Kyle Hamilton coming out of Notre Dame. I'm not gonna go that far. So that's the first pushback, right? Safety at 2. And then the second thing is I felt like where Malachi Moore was at his best was box safety, right? Strong safety, making plays over the middle of the field, coming up and run support. Was he perfect? No, but for a day 3 rookie to start, it's totally fair to assume that he's going to get better over time. And quite frankly, there were moments where he looked like the most polished player on the defense. And if I take Caleb Downs at 2, that's the role I want him in. And so am I willing to sit here with a need at D tackle, a need at edge, a need at wide receiver, a need at left guard, maybe even a need at running back, maybe a depth corner, linebacker help? Quincy's going to hit the open market. Am I willing to say, okay, we're going to go out and draft Caleb Downs and play him at strong safety, and then just hope Malachi Moore turns into the starting free safety? That's my only pushback with Downs. But overall, he's an amazing player. But I appreciate the $2, man. Made 5K. What's happening? Reese at 2, Denzel Boston 16. Bro, I love Boston. Draft a rookie later. I'm assuming rookie quarterback, and let Geno be the bridge. Denzel Boston at 16 is something that I definitely could get behind for sure. He kind of reminds me a lot of Ted McMillan. And then Reese at 2. The upside is absolutely insane with Arvell Reese, but ideally, I want to get more creative on defense. Maybe some more odd man fronts, maybe some more blitzing from the linebackers. But Arvell Reese is like the kryptonite to mobile quarterbacks, right? Like if you get Arvell Reese, don't expect Josh Allen to be running around, Drake May to be running around, extending plays. No, you have a heat-seeking missile in Arvell Reese, who's going to be an amazing quarterback spy. He can drop into coverage. He can stand up and play as a true middle linebacker. He can rush off the edge, hand in the dirt. He can rush from like a wide 9 position from a stand-up. Like there are so many ways to use Arvell Reese. But the question is, where is he best at? And if you're going to run the same system that the Jets ran last year, sorry, I don't know how loud that was with the audio. I just banged the mic. If you're going to take Reese, ideally you want to show off all the skill sets, right? You want to be able to drop him in coverage and rush, have him rush off the edge and have him rush through the A gap on blitzes, QB spot, right? Utilize if Arvell Reese is bringing 5 things to the table, you better utilize all 5 things, especially if you're taking him at 2. So, again, in Aaron Glenn's system, I just don't really know if Reese is going to be getting that flexibility, or I should say the Wilkes system from this past season. I don't know if Reese is going to have that flexibility. But even if you just say, okay, Reese, you're going to be stand-up linebacker, or Reese, you're going to be a every down edge rusher, where, I mean, there's questions about that too, because he doesn't have a ton of experience being just a down-to-down edge. How well can he set the edge at the NFL level? That's a major problem with Will McDonald, right? Just, kind of like football 101 here, right? Let's just pretend that my arm is an offensive line, right? Or sorry, my arm is the defensive line, and my fingers are like Will McDonald, and you are defending against an outside zone, right? Just a basic handoff, basic running play from an offense. If you are having your edge rusher on first and second down, right here on the end, getting blown off the line, and all of a sudden the defensive line is now slanted from like a top-down bird's eye perspective. If you are running the ball this way, this is 8 free yards. This is 7 free yards. Again, if the defensive line is slanted like this, if you are blown off of the edge, and that DN cannot hold, they cannot anchor down, massive problems, which is why I've been, so vocal about the Jets adding someone like, Ruben Bain's a good example, like a 270-pound, 280-pound D end that can hold, right? Because if Will McDonald or this D end is not getting just completely blown off the line and he's holding, where is the rushing lane? Right, you're now trying to focus on cutting backwards, for running backs. So setting the edge and stopping the run is so freaking important for first and second down rushers. How effective is Reese going to be in that department? But if we maybe get a Wink Martindale, who's known for moving guys around, getting more creative, okay, now I really love Reese's fit in this defense because I trust Wink to take a guy and move him around and be creative because that's exactly who Wink in his defense is. So Reese in Boston, major, major upgrades with talent there. Love that. And then let Gino be the bridge. Gino, man, I still think he's a playable option. I'm not going to go as far as to say he's some franchise quarterback or something, but a 1-year bridge for Geno Smith, I would not be against that. I love Geno Smith. I'm pissed that I gave my buddy Manny a Geno jersey back in the day, and I wish I kept it, man. I wish I did. Blue Jay Pete, what's happening, man? Is Moore a guaranteed start over Raiola? Yes, yes. Raiola. Not only was there some talk with Raiola sitting for the entire season anyway, but he was also hurt late into last season with the leg injury, a pretty bad one. So, and also too, the thing was with Raiola, Raiola has more starts than Moore. As a true sophomore, 22 starts starting immediately as a true freshman. Granted, he was a 5-star guy, but he came in for Matt Rule's Nebraska offense. He's had a decent amount of overall experience, and it's kind of ironic because Dante Moore was similar story, right? 5-star coming out of high school, goes to UCLA to start immediately. Things don't really end well. There's flashes, there's good plays and whatnot. But overall, it was just more bad than good, and he needed time to sit. So he transferred to Oregon, which is the school that he wanted to go to initially, and he sat for a year behind Dylan Gabriel. And obviously, it really paid off for Dante. But I think with Dylan Raiola, he's going to sit this season. He's going to sit. Let's see. BP Jets, what's happening? The Buckeye in me says Reese at 2 and bro. Sonny Styles, if we don't go with Reese at 2, if Sonny Styles is there at 16, he's got to be the pick, man. He is so good in space. If you go back and you just watch, I mean, really any game this season, but specifically that Big Ten championship, Sonny Styles versus Indiana, he was amazing with dropping in a cup. Like he is such good body control too. He moves so fluently. He's such an athletic player. And I think it's because he was originally a safety. He put on weight, he becomes this linebacker. And it's really no secret or no surprise that a guy in Sonny Styles, a former safety who's now bulked up, is really good at moving around in open space and is really good at reading the quarterback's eyes, good at reading keys offensively, right? Going from 1 to 2 and being able to move instinctually. Sonny Styles, again, when you talk about a closer, when you talk about someone who can cover running backs out of the flat, blows up screens, blows up crossers over the middle of the field, also would be a very good quarterback spy. Sonny Styles to replace Quincy Williams, boom, easy upgrade in this style of defense. In a different defense, I'm taking Quincy, but in this style, I think Sonny would be the better fit. Islanders fan, what's happening, dude? Thank God. Wanted no part of Moore. K1 once again is the clear answer, not just next year, but for the future of this team. So, dude, I've actually, first off, man, I appreciate you, appreciate the super chat, dude. You definitely did not have to do that. I think so. I've I've kind of been at the forefront of the whole Kyler Murray pushing for the Jets to target Kyler because I'm on board with it. I don't think Kyler Murray is a bad option at all. Is he a top 5 quarterback? No. Is he a top 10 quarterback? No. But is he better than a 36-year-old Jimmy Garoppolo? Is he better than Gardner Minshew coming off an ACL? Is he better than a 40-year-old Joe Flacco? Better than Tyrod Taylor? Justin Fields, Marcus Mariota? Like, I'm taking Kyler Murray every day of the week over those guys. Every day. If we take a look at Kyler Murray's averages, right? Over a 17-game season. So this is not cherry-picked stats to fit a narrative. I'm not a Cardinals fan. I'm not an Oklahoma fan. I was never really a big Kyler fan to begin with. I actually questioned how he was going to be at the next level, going all the way back to 2019. But he's proved me wrong. Like I think if you remove the biases and you say, what is Kyler Murray over 17 games, over the 7 years that he's been an NFL quarterback? Again, we're not going to say, okay, let's only look at his Pro Bowl season. Let's only look at his Rookie of the Year season that happened years ago. And let's not talk about other things. No, let's look at the 7 games or sorry, 7 years, how that projects into a 17 game average. And it's also relevant to note that this is with multiple coaching staffs. And if we think about it, Kyler Murray was the number one overall pick in 2019, and he wasn't traded up for. So the Cardinals had a lot of issues. And yes, of course, multiple time Pro Bowler. Yes, of course, got the Cardinals to the playoffs. Yes, of course, won Rookie of the Year, going back to college, right? Heisman Trophy winner, has a lot of accolades. But over the course of a 17 game season, projecting into the future, what does Kyler Murray average with no cherry pick stats? A 2-to-1 TD to INT ratio, league average. Cool. He averages over 20 passing touchdowns a season. Very cool. He averages over 600 rushing yards on the ground with 6 rushing touchdowns. That is a ton of volume. Okay, if you have quarterback A and quarterback B, quarterback A throws for 20 touchdowns and 3,000 yards, and quarterback B throws for 20 touchdowns and 3,000 yards, but gives you 600 rushing yards with 6 rushing touchdowns, that is a freaking massive. What's 6 times 7? That's the amount of points that Kyler's responsible for on the ground, right? Over 600 yards. That's 6 football fields just in Kyler Murray's mobility alone. Again, over the course of a 17 game average. This isn't, oh, if everything works out great, or we're only looking at his great season. No, this is the good plus the bad. Averages over 600 rushing yards. You also have to factor in completion percentage, right? We've seen a lot of Justin Fields hold on to the football, taking these sacks, looking at wide open guys, right? Just throwing inaccurate passes, launching footballs over targets' heads. Kyler Murray, from a completion percentage standpoint, plays very efficient football. He averages over 67.1 averages just over 67 percent as far as completing passes is concerned. Where does that stack up in today's NFL? If you take that number 67.1, 67.2, where does that stack up? That's easy top 12. Easy top 12. You add 1 percentage point, right? You can get that 67.2 up to a 68. Now you're looking at top 8, top 5. Average over 7 years, multiple coaching staffs. That's his completion percentage. Very, very good. Very good. So he plays efficient football. He's always going to give you a 2-to-1 TD to INT ratio through the air. Probably going to give you 20 passing touchdowns. Going to be running around, assuming no injury. Going to be running around, getting in the end zone, rushing. He's a playable starting option that you don't have to worry. Like, if the Jets start 0-2 and Jimmy G is the quarterback, there's going to be media members. There's going to be people freaking out. You got to bench Jimmy. This is not going well. If you get Kyler Murray and you start 0-2, 0-3, there's no talk about moving on from Kyler, because he's probably not going to be the reason why your team is losing games. Again, is he a perfect quarterback? No. I would take Josh Allen. I would take Patrick Mahomes. I would take a ton of quarterbacks over Kyler Murray. But realistically speaking, if you are a team in the New York Jets that needs a quarterback and Dante Moore is not coming out and Kyler could be available via release, again, I'm taking Kyler every day over a torn ACL Gardner Minshew, or bringing back Justin Fields, or rolling the dice with Marcus. And I like Mariota. I do. One interesting name that you could, oh, hold on. Breaking news here. Steelers interviewing Brian Flores for the head coaching job along with Jesse Minter. That Steelers job is very, very intriguing. But going back to Kyler here, he gives you a starting playable option that you don't really have to worry about. Is it top end? No. But is it average to above? The answer is yes. Um, let's see. Cardi, what's going on? Thoughts on Colton Hood? I like Colton Hood a lot. I do. I'm very intrigued with McCoy. If McCoy's on the board at 16, I could honestly see the Jets just taking McCoy there. Because if McCoy was healthy, I believe he would have been a top 10 pick. And so if you can get a top 10 pick, and for context, it's looking like McCoy is going to be healthy enough to do all of the pre-draft process stuff. So you can get a 40, you can get him to come in for workouts and whatnot. But he missed the entire year. But if you go back, a season prior, he was amazing, amazing corner. So Not at 2, but at 16, I would consider it. For Colton Hood, I think 16 might be a little bit too high, but again, it's January. We don't have all the answers at this point. Thoughts on David Bailey at 2? I'm a little hesitant. I'm a little hesitant with that. I have some questions about, first of all, scheme fit in the Aaron Glenn system. Um, I don't know how consistent of a run, an edge setter of a run stopper he is. I think the pass rush is great. But one thing that we do have to factor in as well, the Texas Tech defense has talent all over the place, and there's another really, really impressive interior defensive lineman by the name of Lee Hunter, who I would like in the second round if I'm the Jets. You have Lee Hunter, who's this massive, like 1 to 3 tech D tackle, who's really nimble on his feet and can affect the passer. And then you have Romello Height on the other side of the D line. So it makes me wonder, in the Big 12 too, by the way, where teams are throwing it quite a lot, and you're not going up against, SEC competition, it makes me wonder how easy of a transition is the NFL, like how big of a transition is the NFL going to be for David Bailey? Is there going to be a season where he's, that rookie year, is he only going to get 3, 4 sacks because he's still adjusting? I don't know. I mean, granted, you don't take a player at 2 for a 1 year instant, for the short term. Now you're looking at all these guys as, okay, who could be here for the next 10 years and how does he project? But overall, man, I like David Bailey, but 2 might just be a little bit too high for me at this point in time. I prefer Bane over David Bailey if I'm just being honest. Who do you want at 2 and 16? Well, yes. So this is what I was going to talk about before. I keep getting sidetracked. If you guys want, we could just roll through the whole kind of offseason plan. So with more going back, Kyler Murray would be my number one quarterback target, right? Realistically speaking. Um, Sorry, my cats are having like this standoff. They look like they're about to wrestle or fight. But Kyler Murray would be my number one choice at this point in time for quarterback. Okay. And I think if we could secure Kyler Murray, that would, again, we talked about what Murray brings, but that's just one piece of the puzzle. I'm also going to be looking at Wandell Robinson in free agency, someone who is literally one of the best separators in the National Football League when it comes to wide receivers. Up there with Jamar Chase, up there with Justin Jefferson. Wandale Robinson is right in that mix. He averages 4 yards of separation between him and the DB, him and the defender. Do you know how much space that is? He averages 11 yards per reception. In other words, that's a first down every single time you throw the ball to Wandale Robinson. He averages a first down. He put up 1,000 yards this season. He's 24 years old. He can play in the slot, kind of that third down, move the chains type of player, where, by the way, the Jets suck on third downs. I mean, we have quarterback question marks, passing game question marks, third down question marks. Not good in any. Does Kyler Murray, Wandale Robinson, and a healthy Garrett Wilson help that? The answer is yes. Love Wandale Robinson. And also, because he's a slot wide receiver, you can probably get him at a cheaper price compared to like a big X type of wide receiver, or even like a go-to wide receiver too, like an Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce is going to get over $20 million per season. Jacoby Myers just got $20 million per season. Look at what DK meant. Like these wide receivers that play on the outside get paid a ton. Wandale, you could probably snag for 15 mil a season, 4 years, 60 mil. And again, he's 24. So by the end of that deal, he'd be 28 in the prime of his career. So I would really look at Wandale Robinson, Alec Pierce, these other like wide receiver 2 options. I would inquire about Romeo Doubs and Juwan Jennings for sure. For sure. But if I had to make a signing, I'm gonna say it's Wandale Robinson on the offensive side of the football. So we got quarterback figured out, we got slot wide receiver figured out, we have Garrett coming back. I'm gonna re-sign John Simpson. Is John Simpson elite? No. But what he does bring is durability, someone who wants to play for the Jets, which is rare in this day and age, someone who enjoys playing for the Jets, someone who is a guaranteed starter with this group, right? He's better than everybody else, and he's also cheap. So he's a cheap, durable, playable option who can come in for under 7 million per season. I would bring John Simpson back 1 year, 6.5 mil, totally fair. And just boom, solve the offensive line. If you want to go with the developmental guard in this year's draft, maybe later on, cool, I'm fine with it. Right, to take over when Simpson leaves the following year in 2027. Um, so we bring Simpson back. Here's the deal with Brees. If Brees wants to, if Hall wants to come back, re-sign him, 3-year deal, $11 million per season. Here's my thing: if Brees hits the open market, I don't think he's going to be coming back, because if he gets a similar offer from the Bears or the Chiefs or the, take your pick, Arizona Cardinals, any sort of running back needy team, he's probably going to opt for the playoff contender, in my opinion. When I'm listening to Brees Hall, it just doesn't really feel like he wants to be back. And I also feel like if the Jets wanted to re-sign him to an extension, it would have already been done. So if the Jets, or sorry, if Hall wants to come back, re-sign him, cool. If not, totally fine. Totally fine, because there are plenty of options in free agency. Look at what like Javonte Williams did for Dallas this season. 1,200 rushing yards. Boom, easy. What was his contract? 1 year, 3.5 mil. Like, the yards are like the options in free agency for running backs are there. Travis Etienne's a free agent. Kenneth Walker's a free agent. Rico Dowdle's a free agent. There are plenty of running backs to add to the room if you don't bring Brees Hall back. Perhaps Jeremiah Love at 16, maybe that's a reach, but we've seen Detroit do that before, right? When Aaron Glenn was a part of Detroit, when they selected Jahmyr Gibbs, who was not even the RB1 in that class. They went after RB2 with Jahmyr Gibbs, where Jeremiah Love is the clear-cut RB1 in this year's class. But just throwing that out there. So I think for me, my first target would be Kenneth Walker. I expect Javonte to be back with Dallas. But then the other group, the ETNs of the world, it's hard to pinpoint on if they'll be back with their original teams. But Kenneth Walker will be my selection if, again, Brees Hall does not want to come back. And you could probably get Walker 3 years, 30 mil. $10 million per season. It's totally fair. I like Kenneth. I like his fit, K9's fit in this offense as well. Like, he's a hard runner, which I do respect, and he also can catch the ball a little bit too. So really, that's my plan on offense right for now. In free agency, Kyler Murray, bring back John Simpson, Wan'Dale Robinson, get Garrett Wilson back healthy, ready to go, and figure out running back, whether that's Brees or another free agent. That's my plan on the offensive side of the football in free agency. Defensively, I'm not necessarily so fixated on getting like long-term big money starters. Like, I'm not necessarily in the market of going like the Jets to hand out $100 million deal or an $85 million deal. I mean, if you want to target like a Brian Cook, like free safety from Kansas City, who is amazing in coverage, $15 million per season. Okay, cool. But what I would do, I would look to really increase the floor of this team by adding proven players that fit the system, that are great leaders. So Alex Anzalone, come on down. 2 years, 16 mil. That's fair. $8 million per season for Anzalone. He could come in and start immediately, right? I understand that he's over 30, but it's not a death sentence. Demario Davis is 35, and he's still playing good football. Like, Alex Anzalone at 31 can come in and be a serviceable option for one season. But the 2-year deal, obviously, if Anzalone has a great year, you don't want to be in a position where you lose him for a lot of money. So 2-year deal at 16 mil. I would also bring in DJ Reader at another major position of need in defensive tackle, right? Someone who can easily rotate in and out with Juwan Briggs and Harrison Phillips. DJ Reader, by the numbers, is one of the better pass rushing or maybe pass disruptors in the NFL. He's a veteran player who fits Aaron Glenn, who's been with Aaron Glenn before. So if you can go out and secure, boom, Anzalone and DJ Reader, two guys to come in and obviously be upgrades, they'd be coming in at cheaper price points. but they'd also be coaches on the field. They would also be kind of echoing Aaron Glenn's message and also pitching, right? Pitching in free agency to other potential options. Like, hey, don't listen to what you hear about, the New York Jets from Stephen A. Smith and stuff. It's all irrelevant. I'm signing here because I believe we love you. We want you to be here. If you are hearing that from Alex Anzalone and DJ Reader, along with Darren Muji and the squad, Spielman, Aaron Glenn, matched with a decent sized contract, that makes a lot of sense. I would respect the buy in there if I'm a potential free agent, right? I think we need to bring in another depth corner. I would look at Robertson from Detroit, maybe Maddox, maybe Brandon Eccles. You could also argue JFM, but he's probably going to be getting paid, I would say, a decent amount. If that's the case, cool. I'm fine bringing JFM back, but I'm probably not going to bring in Reader. So one DT swing, right? Now JFM obviously gives you the defensive end ability, which could be beneficial, but overall, JFM, DJ Reader, one of those two guys, I definitely want on this football team. Ideally, I want to sign a safety for a cheaper price point than 15 mil per season, but I can't really put my finger on who exactly fits. Jaquan Brisker, I don't really know how he would do in the locker room. I guess you could argue you could trade for someone, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure there. I love Genesis Smith. Free safety from Arizona in the draft. Keep an eye on Genesis Smith. Being talked about right now, fourth rounder. I don't believe he's going to be going in the fourth round. He will be a riser. The angles that Genesis Smith takes to the football are amazing. My boy Teo Johnson from Utah decided to go back to school, so he's out. But keep an eye on Genesis Smith. Day one starter, I don't know, but I love his ceiling. Great leader, team captain, players love him, quarterback of the defense. Not a perfect player, but just he's exactly what I look for when it comes to like rangy center fielding free safeties that are smart, high defensive IQ, that can look at what the offense is doing, diagnose it, start moving to where the football's going to be, not where it's already at. Love Genesis Smith. So again, ideally, you kind of want to solve safety before you enter the draft, so you're not like strictly drafting for need. But that would basically be my plan, right? 1 to 2 big swings at free agency. Go land those for sure starters for the next 4 years. Don't bog down the roster with 5 $80 million deals, because at some point we have the 3 first rounders next year and the high second rounder next year, the 2 1s and the 2 2s. If Dante Moore is gone and we're going to be signing Kyler, then yes, I want these players to be starting caliber players. So it doesn't really make much sense to me to go out and spend every single cent we have in this free agency class to go log jam all these different positions, because then we're going to get to the draft and it's going to be like, well, we have this top 15 pick next year, maybe 2 top 20 picks, 3 picks in the top 25 or something. And it's just like, well, we have this guy who's owed 40 mil and this guy who's owed 50 mil and this guy who's owed 25 mil. It's just like, I don't really know if that's the best way of building a team. So that would be my kind of approach, right? 1 to 2 big swings in free agency, and then the rest are just like rotational depth guys that could start, but the focus is veteran leadership. And then you hit the draft. And at 2, I really like the pairing of Reese and Anzalone, but the problem is I guess you'd have to trade Sherwood, which I would be fine with. Sherwood had a terrible season in coverage. I don't really think he affects the passer all that much. I guess he could get better, but if you want to deal him to, I don't know, San Francisco, Atlanta, I think you could. Honestly, I think you could get back something in return. So if you want to do that, fine. I'm not going to push back with it. So yeah, I would probably. It's so tough because we don't know who the DC is going to be. We don't know what the system's is exactly going to look like. But I love Bane as well, because Bane gives you someone that you can play on the edge. as well as bouncing inside on obvious pass rushing downs. So you can say, okay, well, it's going to be Bain and Jermaine Johnson are the two starting ends. And then on third downs, Bain kicks in. You remove Harrison Phillips, who's not effective against the or not effective in pass rush. So you have Briggs and Bain on the inside, and then Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald coming in fresh, where he's just pinning his ears back and going. I like that fit. I like that fit. Ruben Bain is just someone who can really anchor down that edge position as well. So I'm not out on Bain. Yes, he's gonna have shorter arms. I really don't care. I'm not gonna erase all of the dominance that he displayed this season because he has shorter arms. You know, the Will Campbell argument, the Tyrone McMillan argument, right? Where there's one stat that doesn't look great. It's kind of an outlier. Teams take him off their board. I don't like you. I trust the tape. I trust the tape. At 16, at 16, if there's a good defensive tackle there, I would really consider it, right? A Peter Woods, a Caden McDonald, Amari Washington's going back to school. But 16 is an awesome selection because you can go in so many different ways. Denzel Boston, TJ Parker, Sonny Styles, Malachi Lemon. Again, one of those defensive tackles. If you maybe don't bring back Simpson, you want to go with a guard there. Okay, fine. Right? Like there's a lot of different options that you can do with that 16th overall pick. Um, and then in round two, it's kind of tough to predict. I guess we'd have to maybe take a look at AJ Halsey with 44, and then 33. 33 is tough because at that, like, think about what you can get at 33, even just like this past season, right? Like Nick Eamon was sitting there. Like there was so much talent. Donovan Ezaraku was sitting there with the 33rd overall pick. Like you can go out and get a beast with that 33rd pick. So second round, it's kind of tough to predict at this point in time, right? January. Glad people are sleeping on Aller. We need a snag. A lot of upside, bro. A lot of upside. I appreciate the super chat, dude. Thank you. Valentine, what's up, man? Isn't the quarterback class in 2027 much better than 2026? On paper, yes. On paper, yes. Especially with Dante Moore going back to school. I mean, again, Hoover, Sorsby, Manning, Sayin, Carr, Moore, Sam Levitt, right? Sam Levitt has the potential to be the number one overall pick next season. Could be crazy. I know there's more, but freaking Darian Mensah. Darian Mensah can easily be a top 5 pick next season as well from Duke. But I appreciate the super chat, man. I wouldn't sweat about the Jets trying to find a young quarterback. They'll get one at some point. Dom, what's happening, dude? If we hold off on quarterback until 2027 as a fan desperate for good quarterback play, would you buy into using two of the three first round picks for a quarterback, then compete for QB1? In regards to like drafting a QB next year, yeah, I think that's in play. I think for sure, I think that's in play. But it's shaping up to where you don't necessarily need the first overall pick next year. You know, like you could have the 8th pick, the 7th pick, the 10th pick, and still walk away with a potential franchise quarterback. Again, we're over a year out, so it's tough to predict, but overall, there's going to be options. Like I promise you, there is going to be options. People keep, saying like, oh, guys can get hurt. Like look at Nuss, look at Aller. Guys can disappoint. Next year, just from a pure quantity standpoint, there are again 8, 9, 10 names that you can throw out. This past season, 3: Klubnik, Nuss, and Aller. Right? Because everybody kind of assumed that Arch was going back to school. So, yeah, 10 different options, especially if you want to throw Dante Moore in that mix as well. So, yeah, dude, I would not worry about it whatsoever. Rob, what's happening to Reese it too? Yeah, it's gonna be it's gonna be super super exciting this draft cycle. Dylan, what's happening, bro? Hughes reported that Woody's allowing the regime to spend much more freely this offseason. Yeah, I don't want to go crazy in free agency, but I do want to add a lot of pieces. I don't necessarily want to go out oh, here's $100 million contract for you, and you get 85 and you get 55. I don't really want to go down that path, but at least Woody's, I guess on board. Um, I appreciate it, bro. Yeah, Imaliava, another intriguing option, right? Another intriguing option for sure. Okay, so saying Murray is the best of the worst is a pretty low bar. Stats are just stats. He has no locker room accountability. Cards put in an order in his contract to play less video games and work on football. I mean, so I respect what you're saying, and it's completely valid. But let's kind of dive into these arguments, right? So the whole idea that Kyler is, let's just say he plays video games and that's an issue. Why doesn't anyone have an issue with Joe Burrow spending hours a week playing video games? Why is it okay for Sauce Gardner to stream video games per week? No, you don't. Nobody hears about any of these different players that play video games. It's only Kyler. Is Kyler addicted to them? I don't know, right? But there's this notion that Kyler's some like immature kid that's like on the game with his buddies, late to meetings, falling asleep. Is he gaming on his phone during a meet? I don't know. Like, there's this perception that Murray is this terrible leader and he's addicted to video games. When if we're being real, there's other players in the NFL. In the case of Joe Burrow, a top 5 quarterback that plays again hours of video games per week in the regular season, and we don't hear about it. So yes, of course, we had the clause, but I do believe that Arizona ended up pulling that clause out. And regardless on if Kyler plays these video games a lot or not, he's still a playable option. The numbers don't lie here, right? And you're saying stats are just stats. Yes, that's true. But what else can we really point to if you want to look at the course of the 7 years? Because Kyler definitely passes the eye test. So he has the eye test and he has the averaged 17 game statistics to go with it. So I guess another big pushback with Kyler is okay, he's not a good leader. He's not going to be rallying the troops, right? Giving the Drew Brees pre-huddle, pre-game speech. Uh, Justin Herbert doesn't really do that. You don't really need to be like a rah-rah guy. Um, and it's also worth noting, okay, as Kyler gets older, is he capable of maybe growing in that area, growing as a leader, being around, or is it impossible that he can't grow? He's not going to be any more mature in 3 years than he is right now. I mean, I've talked to Cardinals fans and they all say he's matured more, like he's a lot more mature now with JG or when Gannon was the coach compared to Cliff, because Cliff let Kyler basically just do whatever he wanted. Number one overall pick, Heisman Trophy winner, perfect fit for the offense. Cliff comes in from college and kind of is attacking the NFL with like this college culture. But when Gannon comes in, now, again, according to Cardinals fans that I've spoken to, it's like Kyler's accountability, his leadership did start to improve. His professionalism did start to improve. So I don't want to look at Kyler and say, yeah, he's a terrible leader. He's never going to improve, and he plays video games. So therefore, we're going to go out and sign Gardner Minshew or roll Fields back for next season or sign, take your pick, Flacco or trade for Jameis Winston. Mac Jones is the best option. I just don't know if San Francisco wants to part ways with them, and if they do, they're probably going to have to trade a pretty, a decent pick. Kyler has lost a step, which was a big part of his game. I'm tired of retreads. So, who would be your option then? I wish Mac was a free agent, but here's the deal, right? If we're talking about this day and age where there's reclamation projects with the quarterback position, right? Baker, Darnold, Daniel Jones. Who's the next guy in line that you feel like realistically can be that player? I would argue it's Kyler or Tua. And then in regards to Kyler maybe losing a step, I mean, I don't really know. Like, he might not be as electrifying as he was his rookie season, but he's still mobile. It's not like he's immobile or he's a statue now. He could still really move around. Is he perfect? No. Is he top 10? No. If we get Kyler Murray, am I expecting him to be a top 10, franchise altering player? No. But what I am expecting is average to above average play. And I feel good that Kyler Murray can give you average to above average play. But I definitely feel where you're coming from, man. I definitely feel where you're coming from, and I appreciate the super chat here. But I think that's gonna do it for me. I'm probably gonna come back either later on tonight or tomorrow and have some more follow-up videos on the news and maybe what the Jets could do moving forward. So yeah, should be a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys hanging out. And yeah, as always, go Jets.